Hi, I'm Jay Rogoff. I'm delighted to join you live from Saratoga Springs in upstate New York to share some poems from my new book, Loving in Truth, published in April by LSU Press. I want to thank LB Kovac for putting this event together, and I also want to thank LSU Press for giving my work a good home for a number of years. And specifically, let me mention the editors who've acquired my work, John Easterly, Mary Catherine Calloway, and James Long. Also the editors who've helped me through the book, I think Neil Novak and Catherine Kader have both worked with me on 2 books. Loving in Truth is my 7th book. It's my 5th with LSU Press, and it's a new and selected poems. So what I'm going to do is read a poem. There is the cover of the book. Oops, if I can get this in focus here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a poem from each of my previous LSU books, and then I'll conclude with poems from the new poems section, Loving in Truth. Loving in Truth is a new and selected, as I mentioned, and both Loving in Truth and my earlier LSU collections are currently available from the press at a special pandemic discount of 40%. So I'm going to read for about 20 minutes, and after that I'd be happy to answer any questions which you can submit using Facebook's chat feature. The first poem I'm going to read is a poem from a book called Venera, and there is the cover of Venera. I'm showing you the cover of each of these books because LSU has done such a spectacular job designing them, and I think they're really quite beautiful. And Venera is a book that's concerned with varieties of sacred and profane love. And the poem I'll read is called Only Child. The situation is a couple in bed. The woman has a nightmare that wakes her, and they have a dialogue. Only Child. A small child is standing at the bed. That's what you said. That's what you're saying as I shake off the shock of your voice, rocking me awake. Then your eyes open, and you chant this text. Can you remember what I said? Can you remember? You said, a small child is standing at the bed. Before that, before I woke, I think I asked, who are you? What's your name? Who are you? And then, I can't remember what will happen next. Something awful, something terrible. That's why I wake. Something to the child? I can't remember. Hold me. You breathe deep, talk of your daughter off at school, your boy off with his father. Imagine the only child to get you up at night for water is the small child of this visitation, voice jingling like smashed glass, hand dangling and eyeless bare. Our child. I cradle you, your back and bottom sweating in the dark. We breathe together, and the dark at my back cradles me. I'll move next to a book called The Art of Gravity, which is, as you might imagine from the cover, a book that is obsessed with dance. The cover is a magnificent photograph of Maria Kovrosky of the New York City Ballet, taken by Paul Kolnick, their official photographer. And the book deals with dance as an activity, dance as a spectacle, as an art, also dance as a symbol and a metaphor. What I'm going to do is read the poem featuring Maria Kovrosky. It's called Making a Fool of Myself over Maria Kovrosky. And it's really an homage to her, to a favorite dancer, and it deals with what dance can do to us. It's written in sapphics. Making a fool of myself over Maria Kovrosky. Streamlined as the ornament on a Packard, swan in takeoff under the ghostly blue stage light, her face a sphinx-like impassive icon chalked with Tchaikovsky. She's a dancer Balanchine would have loved bone and sinew, heir to the muse's mantle, lunar cruel and stupid with genius, music, movement, and blank sex, knocking not the crotch, but my chest and poor brain. Charming? more like paralyzed. Eyes gone flashbulbs, air turned flame and raptured from lungs, my glib tongue dumbing to granite. Later, wrecked, I'm meeting her face to face, her 22 exquisitely unabashed years, smiling through some party our town has thrown these dancerly creatures. Cheese, champagne, some boxes of Girl Scout cookies. Glass in hand, Maria Kavrosky, I say, you're dancing. Thrilling's the only word. I sit in the dark, thrilled. Smiling, she is cooing, how sweet. But no, it's hell, not sweet. I want her to know I'm kept up nights to partner succubus limbs that burn the phosphorus air, so quick they torch the dreck out of human passion, moonlit arms abandoning me to darkness. Now her smile is faltering. Now my wife says, don't be afraid, he gets this way sometimes, but he's harmless, really. God, I've bought a pair of your satin toe shoes, battered, hardened, stripped of their ribbons, nude pink, ragged with point work. Shoes your feet have danced in, where sweat-conducted contacts sparked to generate light. Divine toes crammed in boxes signed by your hand. My hands now fondling your footsteps, hear me out, terpsichore, on my knee bones, drive me crazy, cripple my days with beauty. Naked relics clutched to my cheek, I breathe their reek of sheer ether. In a book called The Long Fault, I deal a good deal with the disasters of history, and the enlightening power of art, the enlightening effects of travel, and the inevitable intertwinings of love and death. The poem I'm going to read is called Carmelite Convent, Mexico DF. It takes place, of course, in Mexico City. And it's about a visit to a historic convent in that capital. Carmelite Convent, Mexico DF. Past portraits of sedate saints at desks like grade school principals. Past dormitory cells where nuns once whispered prayers to iron bells, then sank to wooden biers and slept. We descended to the crypt. This death-intoxicated land gives skeletons the final chuckle. They play in a mariachi band, hack a laptop, dance flamenco, sing a feather boa torch song, soar on bat wings, fish, go drinking. Death makes mirth in Mexico. The jawbones slacken in a laugh. The lively, eyeless sockets know nothing ends in an epitaph, for pleasure lies in getting stripped of everything. Then, in the crypt, the glass-topped coffins let us view the corpses of some denizens of a colonial century, some of abbots, some of nuns, others sporting finer dress, all whitened by the same distress. A person often mummifies in the capital's sapless climate. Though ancient gum sealed one nun's eyes, some woolen and some fleshly habit had worn away. Thus she gave us a peekaboo flash of naked pelvis. Others suffered harder wear, ribs poking out between the buttons, their boots sewn of the supplest leather for bourgeois metatarsal bones, each now clumsily damned to dangle from the slenderest, widest ankle. We couldn't say they lay at rest because the mummied mouths stood open with this or that peculiar twist, as if their maiden glimpse of heaven contradicted what they'd heard. Every body looked appalled on death, or the death of an illusion. Though one skull, maybe once a lawyer, grinned with clean white satisfaction atop his once tight boiled wool collar, grown ample. The kid glove on his fist skinned back to bare a knuckled wrist. And the most recent book I've published with LSU is a book called Enamel Eyes. Enamel Eyes, a Fantasia on Paris, 1870. There it is. And it's a historical fiction in the form of a poetic sequence. It brings together the Franco-Prussian War of 1870 and the awful siege of Paris, and it brings those together with the premiere of the ballet Coppelia, which also dates from 1870. There are many characters and voices. The hero of the sequence is a 16-year-old Italian girl named Giuseppina Bozzacchi. She was a ballerina, and she starred in Coppelia. In the book's opening poem, she's still living in Milan and celebrating a birthday. She's much younger. Her ballet teacher, a famous dancer, gives her some good news, but also relates the tragedy of Paris opera dancer Emma Livry. In parts of the poem, we leave Giuseppina's voice and we hear more of Livry's story. Wing light. My dreams burst in flame each night till I wake drenched in unquenching liquid. Poor Emma Livry, the bright dust on the butterfly's wing, ash. 9 candles Mahmud lit upon my cake, curled up their silky wicks, crisp, black, and grisly. With all my breath I blew them out. A flash, Signorina Boschetti said. A wing light caught Emma's skirt as she rehearsed the deaf and dumb girl in some opera, not dance's silk geometry, but ignorant mime. Her mute screams ricocheted off paradise. Weeks before, she'd schooled Feydeau on ballet terms his novel lacked. He revealed his book's heroine dies on stage, Tulle skirt having swept through the footlights, burned to ash. How awful, how grim, Emma cried. Then, we dance like moths. All the same, fine death for any dancer. Panettone from La Signorina for my birthday. Already I'm on point. She's exiting Milan because La Scala turns dancers, she says, into furniture in tulle and grease paint. Any more panettone and she'll be a dancing break front. Join her? Would I? And train with Madame Dominique? A petit rat, the Paris opera. All on stage froze. Fire and smoke trailed her screams, loud meteor, till a coryphée knocked Emma down, beating flames out barehandedly. Emma grabbed charred scraps of tulle to cover up burnt nakedness. I will come back grown up, she sighed, not 21, and France wept. City of flame, I'll spread my wings. They burn to dance le papillon. I'll likewise dare disdain the flame-proofing that turns our skirts a dingy shade of ash before the fact. Poor Emma Livry, your death demands I dance your apotheosis of sheer suffering, but not like I'm on fire, like fire itself. I'm going to turn now for a few poems from the new poems section of the book. And those fall into 3 sequences. The first one is called The Penny Poems. Penny is my wife. Today happens to be our wedding anniversary. And it's a really tribute to my helpmeet and my muse. The first one, All the Same, is mostly in Penny's voice. It's a sonnet. And in it, she talks of Fiordalici from Mozart's opera Così fan tutte, who in the opera surprises herself by falling for another man while she's already engaged. All the same. Spinning Così, Penny ponders. Mozart slays me. I'd fall for a guy aged 250 who understood a girl like Fiordalici. What the heart hurts to learn. If I lose heart, God let me lose it to a man whose art seduces me with such sincerity that even when it lies, say, poetry concocted by some Don Giovanni upstart, I might pretend his groaning sonnets genuine, scrawled straight from a vein. Such artful designs can make me lie, my feelings or myself full peeled. Such joy conceiving plots to bear our ends. All the same, meeting you on that softball field, boy, I could swear that you were born Albanian. I think that last line somehow came from My Fair Lady. Dying. and that's Dying. The poems, as I may have implied, are an account of a long-term marriage, dying. Color your hair, darling, if you must. Dye it the red of Cabernet or blood, and hide the gray lights glowing in your head, like emanations from a future ghost, neural mandates from the skull embossed upon your darker curls. I will abide your dying as long as it cheats the dead, and love you nonetheless. Yet having kissed your graying part and studied open-eyed, and at midnight by lover's braille, I'll stand forth ready to recite your body blind. When our curves falter, flagging with gravity, we'll pass with flying colors, grayed or dyed, advanced love granting its advanced degree. I'll read one more of the penny poems. This is set at the Imperial War Museum in London, which remarkably is a museum about war that makes implicit arguments against both war and empire. At the War Museum. Even with hers grown up, she's never not a mother, viewing children of the Blitz, words written by evacuated kids. Today I gathered eggs warm from the nest and didn't break one. Her eyes magnify, moist with the elixir that can't save the world. A card scribbled en route to Canada. The captain is so nice. Tonight we ate at his table and for our suite had custard. Found waterlogged, weeks after the torpedo. And Mummy, I haven't once got seasick yet. The second sequence in the new poems section is called Side Issue, and it has to do with the story of Adam and Eve. It's a kind of rewriting of the Genesis story, seen through the lens of the carved reliefs on the Orvieto cathedral facade, done in 1325 or so by Lorenzo Maitani. And the cover of the book shows the creation of Eve from that facade. It's really an extraordinary carving. There are a set of strange ballads, and I'll read the one that actually is about the creation of Eve. It's called Side Issue. At Orvieto, adolescent Eve emerges, born 15 and set to blossom. God omniscient sees men fall for younger women, with breasts like figure skaters' buds that have no nurslings to distend them. The no man's road that no hand hides maps her shameless bare pudendum. God's left hand perfects her shoulder. Adam sleeps, his arms crossed, hiding his physique. He's older, possessed of a more manly chest. Eve's magnetized by God's stark stare, drawing her body and making her cock her head his way. She puts on power, a splash of aphrodisiac. There they parley eye to eye. Her right hand worries the humble ground, while her left hand strums her thigh. Like God's, her cunning hair is curled. She notices how God's divine man-like thigh distends his robe. She falls for him. She will for man as well in microcosmic form. Stare gone blank, adoring God who beams upon her sunning face. She dabbles her toes in Adam's side. She'll dapple blood through paradise. Two angels troll across the blue. One asks if it's a good idea, this bone girl hot for deity. The other's face is hacked away. I think I have time to finish up with one more poem, which is the last poem in the book. And this is in the final sequence of the new poem section, which is itself called Loving in Truth. The poem is called Where, and that's W-E-A-R. And it really began as an exercise in sound and all the different ways that I could think of to use the word where. Where. The birds wear air, and the fish wear water. Once we knew the soul wore matter, but now no matter, the soul wears down. The duckling's down lets it wear water in wearying weather. The weather wears the sun's fire that warms the earth in its wrap of air. Earth wears the moon, and the moon wears water, pulling the tides from their coastal harbor and wearing them down upon the sand, where the tides wear land, where we wore each other like winter clothing. We watched our breath, and into the ground we wore each other, honeymooners on a train, squabbling over the lower berth. Christ, how can you lie, my darling, naked under cover in the winter, wearing earth? Well, that concludes the reading part, and I would be delighted to answer any questions that you have using the chat feature on Facebook. I have a hi from Elisa Plant, who is the director of the press. I'm very, very pleased that she's here listening in. There are links. Let's see what else we have. Okay, there are also in the chat, there are information of different on the different books and where you can get them at LSU Press. Okay, I don't see any questions just yet, so let me put in another poem for you. This is a villanelle, and a villanelle is, as you probably know, a poem that has two refrains which get repeated in a regular pattern throughout the course of the poem. Penny, my wife, is an art historian. That means we spent a lot of time in museums, and this is one of the museums that we were in Florence, where I saw a miracle take place. The poem is called Witness. While waiting for you to take a leak, I turned from John the Baptist's bust and saw a tear run down his cheek. In one of Florence's less chic museums, sculptures downed with dust. While waiting for you to take a leak, I saw it, a descending streak, a miracle. How could I trust that tear down John the Baptist's cheek? Well, neither he nor I could speak. I might have seen a mite, I must, while waiting for you to take a leak, or spider with a silent shriek. For exiting, when I discussed the tear on St. John's run-down cheek, you looked as if I gushed in Greek, hair-shirted, munching locusts, just because you chose to take a leak while tears ran down the statue's cheek. Well, thank you all for listening. Be sure if you have any questions for me or comments, you can certainly put them in the chat section. I'd be happy to talk to you. And otherwise, maybe I will read one more poem. This comes from a series of poems that I wrote for the book, The Art of Gravity, and the second half of the book is a series of sonnets on the Dance of Death theme called Danse Macabre. This is a poem called Breathless. I dreamed I brought you back from underground, and for a time, in time, I repossessed your breathless self, whom gravely I undressed. Your stockings black whisper under my hand, your black garters stutter against blood-drained, squid-white flesh, the ultimate minimalist art, despite your time passed away, amazed me with arousal. We danced again. We sinned as if there were no tomorrow. Each tear that sprang abrupt and human to your eyes sparkled and said I dreamed. You weren't there after all these damned years. Ever faithless, the party girl, sucker for a black leather jacket, ever the dirty adulteress. There's one question above. Let's see. Okay, a question. Love is a recurring theme in your poetry. What makes you turn again and again to the subject? Well, it seems, okay, there it is. It's on my message also. Okay, thanks for the question. What else do poets write about? Love and death. I mean, these are the most significant things that happen to us in our lifetimes, and so they naturally keep recurring to me. And I've had the luck of for a poet anyway, of being able to write of young love, to write of lost love, and to write of enduring love, as in the penny poems. Okay, all right. If there are no more questions, I think what we will do is say goodbye. Thank you very much for joining me. I've enjoyed this quite a bit. Everybody keep safe, buy some books, support your local bookseller and LSU Press, and thanks once again to LSU Press for making this event possible. Bye-bye.